If you're hearing this, it means I failed. I'm sitting in a room I don't recognize. The door is locked from the outside, and the only light seeps through a crack above me, barely enough to show the wall across the room. But that's all I need to see. That's all you need to know. Because on that wall, the blood is spreading again. It doesn't drip like normal blood. It doesn't run. It just blooms, slow, deliberate, as if the wall itself were bleeding. I've scrubbed it with bleach until my hands cracked open. I've burned it with lighters, painted over it, carved into the plaster just to tear the infected piece out. None of it works. The stain always returns. And it's bigger now. I can't tell you exactly when it started following me. Maybe when I first noticed it back at the house. Maybe earlier, and I was too stupid to realize. But the first time it moved, the first time it showed up somewhere it shouldn't, I knew I wasn't dealing with some trick of my imagination. You don't believe me. I get it. You're safe, sitting wherever you are, with your walls clean, your life untouched. But let me ask you this. Have you ever stared at something so long you swore it shifted? A shadow that stretched the wrong way. A mark that seemed bigger than before? You brushed it off, right? Told yourself you were tired, paranoid, seeing things. That's how it starts. The blood doesn't care about my excuses, and it won't care about yours. Once you've seen it, once it has made itself known, you don't just walk away. You can't. The more attention you give it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the closer it comes. Right now, it's halfway across the room, creeping toward me like ivy crawling up a wall. I can already make out shapes inside it, fingers pressed from the other side, a mouth opening where no mouth should be. I don't know how much time I have left, but you need to understand, this isn't just my story. If you keep listening, it'll be yours too. Because bloodstains never dry. Before the stain, my life was boring. And I don't say that for dramatic contrast. I mean it in the most numbing, mindless way possible. I was a grad student in a small college town, stuck between bad coffee, worse assignments, and the kind of roommates you learn to tolerate only because moving costs money. My days blurred into lectures, part-time shifts, and nights scrolling forums for urban legends just to feel something outside the monotony. That's probably why I said yes when my friend Kieran dared me to check out the old boarding house on Marrow Street. He swore it was cursed, that people went missing there, that sometimes you could hear knocking even when no one was inside. I didn't believe him, but I wanted the thrill of pretending I might. You know how it is. Half skepticism, half secret hope that something weird might actually happen. The house was exactly what you'd expect. Windows busted, roof sagging, walls sagged with damp and rot. The kind of place where graffiti tags fade into mildew and the air smells like mold that's been alive longer than you. Still, stepping inside gave me a jolt, like I'd crossed into somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. I laughed it off, told Kieran through text that it was nothing but Pinterest for asbestos. But then I saw it. At first, I thought it was rust. A wide, dark patch just above the baseboard in one of the empty bedrooms. The color was off, though, not brown like old water damage, not flaky like rust. It was too dark, too red. I crouched down, ran my hand across it. The texture was rough, almost grainy. When I pulled my fingers back, there was a faint smear. Kieran called me right then, asking if I'd seen it yet. I joked about tetanus and lead poisoning, but something in his tone gave me pause. He sounded too serious, too rehearsed, like he was testing whether I noticed the same thing he once had. That night, I brushed it off. Told myself it was paint, maybe a prank. Places like that are always dressed up by local. The next morning, I woke up restless. You know the kind of sleep where your body lies still, but your mind chews itself raw? That was me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that patch of red. It clung to my thoughts like it had been painted behind my eyelids. I told myself I wasn't obsessed. I was just curious. Curiosity, after all, was harmless, right? People binge true crime podcasts, ghost hunting shows, conspiracy forums. This was no different. That's what I kept repeating, even as I packed a flashlight and a bottle of water and walked back down Marrow Street like some bargain bin explorer. The house looked worse in daylight. Sunlight didn't make it safer. It only highlighted the sagging beams, the warped boards, the overgrown weeds curling up the porch. Still, my pulse quickened the moment I stepped through the doorway. I wanted proof. Not proof of ghosts or curses, but proof that I wasn't losing my mind. I found the same bedroom, the same wall. The stain was there, unchanged, or at least I thought so. I crouched down, snapping photo after photo, comparing angles. The more I looked, the more the differences crept in. The edges seemed softer, like they were bleeding outward. And though the air smelled of dust and decay, I swore I caught the faintest copper tang. I rubbed at the stain with my sleeve. When I pulled back, the fabric was damp. A rusty smear marked the cotton. That was the first time my humor kicked in. Not because it was funny, but because that's how I deal with fear. I recorded a voice note for Kieran. Congrats, you've given me a DIY blood feature wall. I'll invoice you for the dry cleaning bill. He didn't reply. That night, after I'd shaken the dust off and showered twice, I was scrolling through the pictures I'd taken when my stomach dropped. In one photo, faint but undeniable, the stain was shaped like a handprint. Fingers splayed wide, as though something behind the wall had pressed forward. I deleted the photo, told myself I'd edited it. I thought ignoring it would work. That's what you do with weird thoughts, right? Push them down, pretend they don't exist, and eventually they wither away. But the bloodstain didn't care about my denial. If anything, it thrived on it. The first week, it was small, barely noticeable unless I crouched and squinted. The second week, it doubled in size, spreading outward like a bruise beneath skin. By the third week, I didn't need to look for it anymore. It was just there, in the corner of my eye, red and glistening no matter how many times I scrubbed the wall raw. I tried covering it with a poster. The next morning, the stain had bled through the paper, faint outlines seeping around the edges. I nailed a shelf over it. Same result. Eventually, I stopped trying. It wanted to be seen. That's when I realized it wasn't just on my wall anymore. It started subtle. A patch on the stairwell of my apartment building. Another on the tiled wall in the campus bathroom. Once, in the library, I caught sight of it between two bookshelves. Always the same dark red. Always shaped like something pressing forward. The worst was when I saw it in my reflection. Not on me, never directly, but behind me. Over my shoulder, staining the wall where I stood. When I turned, nothing. But in the mirror, it pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. I stopped telling myself I was crazy when Kieran finally admitted the truth. You said not to feed it, I hissed one night after dragging him outside, away from my apartment. What the hell does that mean? His face looked hollow under the streetlight. It notices attention. That's how it spreads. You look at it, you think about it, you talk about it, it gets stronger. So what? It's like, what, a tulpa? Some kind of thought parasite. Kieran didn't answer. He just stared past me, eyes wide. When I turned, there it was. A faint stain on the brick wall behind us. Higher this time. Larger, like a silhouette. He pulled me away before I could get closer. It stopped being confined to places I could walk away from. That's how I knew the game had changed. Before, it was stains on walls, ceilings, reflections, things I could at least pretend were external. Now it was bleeding into everything else. dripping into the cracks of my life like it had been waiting all along. The first slip happened at my parents' house. I hadn't been back in months, but after Kieran disappeared, no calls, no texts, nothing. I thought maybe some distance would help. Familiar walls, childhood safety, that kind of thing. I walked into my old bedroom and froze. On the wallpaper, right above the desk where I used to do my homework, was a dark patch. Smaller than the one in my apartment, but identical in shape and texture. My mom asked if I was okay. I must have gone pale. I told her I was just tired, jet-lagged, even though the drive was barely 2 hours. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I rolled over, I imagined the stain spreading behind me, growing inch by inch until it covered the whole room. I left the light on like a child, and when my dad knocked to ask why, I lied through the door. Just reading. But when I finally cracked the door open in the early hours, I saw him in the hallway, standing still, staring past me into the room. "Dad," I whispered. He blinked, like snapping out of a trance. "Why do you always bring the blood with you?" he muttered. Then he walked away. He didn't remember saying it in the morning. He swore he never would have said something like that. But his tone, it wasn't his voice. It was like something had spoken through him. After that, I didn't stay long. I told them I had research deadlines and left before breakfast. Back in my apartment, things unraveled faster. The stain appeared in new places. On the pages of my notebooks, spreading between the lines of my handwriting. On the screen of my laptop, a faint smear across the corner that no amount of wiping removed. The dreams came next. At first they were acts. There comes a point where fear stops mattering. Not because it fades, but because it becomes the only thing left. You can't run when every wall bleeds. You can't hide when every reflection smiles. You can only face it, even if you know you'll lose. That's how I ended up in the old boarding house again. Marrow Street, the place where it all began. My chest was tight as I climbed the rotting stairs, flashlight beam trembling across walls that seemed already alive with faint red veins. Every step forward felt like surrender, but staying away had only made it worse. I found the same bedroom, the same wall. The stain waited, massive now, covering nearly the entire surface. And it pulsed, visibly, like a heartbeat. "I'm here," I whispered, as if that meant anything. "I see you." The wall shuddered. I swear it did. The blood rippled outward, and for the first time, it spoke. Not with a voice, not exactly. More like a chorus of whispers threaded through my skull, each one using my name. "You noticed. You fed me. You carried me." I pressed my hands over my ears, but the sound was inside me. My knees gave out. The flashlight clattered to the floor, rolling so its beams slid across the stain. The impression of fingers became hands. The mouth stretched wider, jagged teeth forcing themselves into shape as if the wall was tearing itself open. "You can't have me," I croaked, even though some part of me knew I was wrong. The stain pulsed again, stronger. The floor vibrated beneath me, and then I realized it wasn't just on the wall anymore. It was on the ceiling, the floorboards, creeping down the hallway, bleeding into every surface until I was boxed in, drowning in red. I scrambled for the flashlight, clutching it like a weapon. The beam caught the mouth, and I saw it twitch, as though light hurt it. That gave me courage I didn't deserve. I lunged forward and pressed the flashlight against the stain. It laughed. The sound nearly broke me. It wasn't joyful, it wasn't mocking. I thought telling the story would help. That speaking the words aloud, recording them, sharing them, would cut the cord between me and the stain. Like confession might purge it. I was wrong. The night I uploaded the first recording, my apartment went quiet, eerily quiet. No hum of the refrigerator, no creak of the pipes, no footsteps from the upstairs neighbor. Just silence, so heavy it pressed on my ears. For a moment, I let myself believe maybe it was gone. Then the comments started. People weren't supposed to notice anything unusual. It was just a late-night ramble from a sleep-deprived student, right? But the first reply chilled me. Why is there a red mark on the wall behind you? I hadn't filmed video, only audio. The second comment was worse. It moved. At the end, you can see it breathe. That was impossible. I checked the file 3 times. No video, no visuals, just my voice. And yet strangers claimed to see what haunted me. The more they talked about it, the more replies appeared. Some swore they'd seen faint stains in their own homes after listening. Others begged me to delete the recording. A few demanded more. The stain feeds on attention. Kieran's words echoed in my skull. By telling the story, I'd given it exactly what it wanted, an audience. Over the next few days, it escalated. My phone buzzed non-stop, messages from unknown numbers, blurry photos of walls, ceilings, bathroom mirrors, always with the same caption, "Is this it?" One night, my mom called. She sounded tired, strained. "Honey, when you left, did you notice the wallpaper in your old room? There's a mark. Your father says it's just water damage," but her voice trailed off, then sharpened. "You brought something here, didn't you?" I hung up. Cowardly, I know, but I couldn't bear to hear it spread to them too. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamt of walls cracking open, of hands reaching out, of blood soaking through the mattress. Worse, sometimes I wasn't. You probably think I'm cursed, that I'm sitting here, hollow-eyed and broken, whispering my confession into a mic while the doll crouches in the corner, waiting for me to slip. You're half right, but the truth is worse. Because she's not here anymore. Not in this room. Not in this apartment. Not even in me. She's in you. I know how insane that sounds, but listen, really listen, before you click away. That's what everyone else did. My friends, my followers, the people who laughed with me when I mocked haunted dolls and demon stories. They all stopped listening. And that's when she found her way in. She doesn't need the doll. That was just her anchor, her disguise. Annabelle was the lure, the myth, the story people shared at parties. But stories spread further than objects. Stories are portable, infectious. All she ever needed was for someone to tell the story. I realized it the night I broke. I'd been awake for nearly 3 days, sitting in darkness, too afraid to sleep. The laugh had gone quiet again, which only made it worse. Every time my eyes shut, I braced for it. Every silence felt stretched thin, ready to split into that sound. And then my phone buzzed. A notification. A message from a stranger on one of the forums where I'd posted the clip. Just 3 words. "She's with me." My heart clenched so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I clicked the profile. No picture. No name. Just a message. I typed back before I could stop myself. "What do you mean?" Seconds later, a reply. I heard the laugh. I wanted to believe it was a troll. But then another message came. And another. Dozens of people, all claiming they'd heard it too, after watching my clip. That's when it clicked. She wasn't haunting me. She was using me. I'd been the vector, the carrier. I uploaded her laugh, and it spread like a virus, latching onto anyone who gave it even a second of attention. The more they listened, the closer she got. The empty case wasn't a failure. It was a plan,